decades ago, there was a series of books, Teach Yourself, recognizable by brilliant black and yellow cover. In the more recent times, we now have do-it-yourself books. Welcome to Oral Tradition and another adventure in Guyanese literature. Welcome to another segment, another adventure, where we look at a book, A Common Vision, written by B. Sham Moteelall. Quickly it sounds like B. Sham Moteelall. Sham, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Do-it-yourself book. It has gained some publicity. If you to sell this book, no, a better word would be if you were to market this book to various individual and groups, like the individual, the layperson, the academic learning institution, how would you market this book? What's so special about this book?
This book comes from many years of experience in life, in different parts of the world, and in corporate business management. And it depends which segment you're going after because it talks about people, talks about business, talks about customers, talks about profit, talks a lot of different things. So everybody will take something from this book, but not everything applies to everybody, but something applies to everybody.
Right, right. People, let's talk about the individual because we're going to start somewhere
Yep.
before we move to a group or corporation. Let's talk about people. Focus is on the individual.
Well, people are politicians, people are businessmen. There are 8 billion people in the world, and everybody is an individual. People have needs, desires, and a whole bunch of everything in between. And when you think about it, what's right for one person might not be right for somebody else. So when I wrote this book, I tried to do a generic, all-inclusive, that it's not a psychology or nothing like that. It's basically about the human race, and it focused a lot on things like business management, spirituality, attitude, habits, and stuff like this. That sometimes people have to look in the mirror and recognize, what is right and what is wrong about them, and not worry about the rest of the world, but how can they improve themselves and become a better person.
And this individual move eventually into an organization, a group. So the thing that you learn as an individual can move now into a group
Yes.
setting.
And that's a common vision, is that if you're working in a church, in a business, in a community, when you are working with a group, um, you know, each person has to have a common vision of the group. It doesn't necessarily mean what you believe, any particular person believe. What it includes is that everybody has to be on board and have that common vision and can almost physically or mentally see the process to the end. And if everybody is not on board, then you have tug of war, people pulling every which way. It becomes chaotic, disruptive, and so, especially in business, people have teams and they have groups and they have, layers in business. That if one group agrees and want to do something, and the next group doesn't, then that's a bigger problem. So you have to take a holistic approach and make sure everybody is in there, because if somebody doesn't believe in something, they're not going to put their heart, soul, and mind into it, and that becomes disruptive. And in anything, each person or each group is a link in a chain, and an organization is only as strong as that one link. So when tension happen, if you are the weak link, you will break. And so people have to recognize their deficiencies, and are they the one breaking it, or are they one strengthening the whole group? So it's a chain of command, basically. It's a different kind of chain.
There's a lovely phrase that we use so often. It's easier said than done.
Yeah. And people as a whole have choices. And the choices we make influence our community, our family, and the world as a whole. If somebody doesn't like something, then why are you there? If you don't like what the company is doing, or if you don't like what the community is doing, if you don't like what the church is doing, or the family you're in. So we don't have choice. I mean, we pick our friends, we don't pick our family. But if you're part of it and things are not working, why are you there? If you know better, get the heck out of there and go and find something that meets your needs and your desires. Otherwise, you sit there and you become disruptive, and you disruptive to the whole process. And people should take responsibilities that I'm on board or I'm not on board. And they have to be on board 100%. Now, people are saying I'm in there 120%. That's nonsense. There's no such thing. 100% is a whole circle. So you're at 100%, but you can be 50% or 60%. I agree with this part, I disagree with that part. Tell the group or whoever you're dealing with, tell them what's wrong, why you feel that way. And if they don't believe what you're trying to do, then just go do something else. Don't fight or argue and then gossip with people and stuff like this. Just take charge of your life and go do what you like to do and make sure you make a difference in that process.
Yeah, yeah. I like to stay a bit more on the individual, the person. A lot of things are built on family.
Hmm.
The family is made up of individuals.
Right.
Talk a bit more, and then I'll ask you to look at some of the subdivisions in your book and expand on some of them.
Sure. You know, they always say that, the old saying that no man is an island. We all rely on somebody or something. We don't stand alone. And if you're a loner and you think you can handle it, well, so help you God, you can't. So the individual has to have his or her belief, and this is where the spirituality comes in. And we have to define, spirituality is not religion. Spirituality is what we believe. And you don't have to go to church to be spiritual. So this whole process with the individual has to believe in something. And if that individual doesn't believe in something or cannot accept something, then that person doesn't belong there. And in a business, for example, if you have a person like that doesn't quite believe or is disruptive, then it becomes management's decision to say, you know what, this person can be reassigned, or if he's disruptive, then fire him or her. That person doesn't belong here. On the other hand, we must remember that people have ideas, and a lot of great ideas were not accepted initially. So we have to be real careful that we do not get rid of somebody because it's contrary to our belief.
Yeah.
So we have to listen and let the person give his or her side of the story, why they believe that. Now, in this book, I talk about a character called Mr. Sagacity. And when we get there, we'll talk about him. But I would like to sometime address who Mr. Sagacity is and tell the story about him. But in the meantime, we're talking about the individual right now.
Right.
When I wrote this book, it was about people, customers, because people are everything. You're a customer, you're a shopper, you make products and whatnot,
Consumer,
so forth.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, everything
Producer.
rotates around people, and our behavior dictates who we are sometimes. And it doesn't matter what we think, is what the other people think, because we can fool a little bit, but we can't fool ourselves. And so I was trying to do this whole thing. So what I did, I invented the perfect corporation, and I called them Divine Logic Corporation, abbreviated DLC. And in DLC is this company where the president and CEO is Mr. Almighty. The keeper of the gates, basically the HR people, is Mr. Peter.
Yes.
The head of the legal department is Miss Ethics, and so on and so forth. But what it comes down to is that they didn't have a lot of layers. They worked together with a common vision to develop their products and put it in the marketplace. But they tend to be more selective who they let into the corporation and they look for virtuous people. And I spend a lot of time talking about virtue and virtuous people because, there are a lot of good, virtuous people in the world, but we tend to discount them sometimes as being crazy or stupid, whatever. They're not that way. But in the big picture, when I was doing this, thinking about this Divine Logic Corporation or DLC, I start asking people, and I teach business seminars, so I ask people, take this hypothetical company, and how close are you to a perfect company, or how far away are you? And if you're so far away, what's wrong? Why aren't you fixing it? And so when I teach a seminar, for example, I teach a lot of things into business people and all different areas. And one of the seminars I teach is on effective worrying. And when I tell people, everybody laugh.
Yeah.
We worry about everything, and if you don't have something to worry about,
You're not
we
alive.
we invented we invent something to worry
Something to
about.
worry about.
And people who worry are preoccupied. And so if you're preoccupied and you work for a company and you have all this stuff in your head and you're worried about it, you can't be effective or efficient. You make mistakes in the company, in your own jobs.
There's a little one I want to
Yeah,
drop here. They say never take your worries on the road. Means while you're driving.
right.
Go.
Yeah, but people still do. They're sitting preoccupied or worried, whatever the case may be. So when I show up and talk about effective worrying, everybody look at me, but you wouldn't believe how many compliments I've got from presidents of company all the way down, saying, since I listened to that session, I've changed my behavior. I don't worry as much because once upon a time I heard a lady make a statement and she would make a speech and she said something quite interesting. And I've learned from her, and she says, if something would happen, just learn 3 words and say, I'll handle it. Because when things happen, we are resilient enough, we handle it. So we worry about it, but 90-some% things we worry about never happen, As a parent, when my children were little, and they'd be out 16-year-old going to a party or something, and then I hear the siren go on the road, my wife and I jump up and like, where are the kids, And so the shock and the worrying, but pretty soon the kids come home and they're fine, We worry too much about things, and so I try to help people to understand about not worrying about stuff. And the reason this book came along is when I was doing all this business teaching and so on like this, people say bring handouts. And so you kind of try to wonder, well, who are these people and which part should I bring handouts for? So I decided to write this book, and I tell the president or the department head, have your people read this book, make notes, and when I get there, we'll go through the details, but they can ask me questions about something. What really surprised me, I mean, this book has not been launched in the market yet. It's test marketing, but a lot of people got this book already. And I'd go to the business, and I'll see people have little sticky notes about parts of this book, and they said, this
Yeah.
is really interesting.
There's
I
some
really
great-
like this part. And
yeah.
what it is, people choose which part of the book applies to them. And that surprised me, how much people appreciate the little wisdom, if you want to call it that.
There's wit and wisdom also in this book.
Yes.
Easy to read.
Yes.
And I'm sure you're gonna drop a story in just now. 2 things.
There-
You keep saying why you write the book, and there's a lovely line here, which I quote: "Writing this book was a journey on the road to reality." End of quote.
My reality.
Your reality.
My own reality, because I had to look at myself and ask the question, who do I think I am to tell the world how to live? Do
And
I-
many times you did say this is one man's opinion.
Right. This is my opinion. You can take it or leave it. But I put a lot of thought into this book. A lot of thought went into the book. I rehearsed and say, in an ideal society, ideal corporation, ideal family, how should we be? Now we have choices, but I give my opinion, and opinions are something that and I wrote in there that opinions are like belly buttons. We all have one. We don't understand its function. So don't worry about your opinion sometimes. People want to give their opinion all the time, and it's a bad thing to give your opinion. On the other hand, if you have some wisdom to say or something like that, and you truly believe, then you are welcome to air your wisdom. Now, and I try to differentiate the difference between knowledge, wisdom, and sagacity. And I've gone to college for many years, and I have many textbooks I read and had many good jobs and careers and stuff like this. But the knowledge thing is good, but people say knowledge is power. And I said, well, that's true, but don't give power to the wrong people. But when we go beyond knowledge, we go to wisdom. And wisdom is something you can't teach, and it doesn't come in a bottle. You either have it or you don't.